Happy Friday, everyone. This is Juan Catamayo, JCT4Education for you. And Friday, and what do we say? We've been in London, we've been in Brazil, we've been all over the world this week. And guess what? Let's go back to Brazil. I can't wait. And this time we're going to Porto Alegre. So let's wait for our guests to join in. Penny, un saludo para ti. Laura, Tendel Coaching. We have here Jupipa. Hello, my friend. And to all of you that are joining in, we have an outstanding guest this afternoon, all the way from Porto Alegre. This time we have a high school student. Jupipa, nice seeing you. And let me see if our guest is here. I'm just waiting. Okay, she just signed in. Ta 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 ta! All the way from Brazil, Porto Alegre. And who is coming? If you read it, Bruna Zanini.
Hi.
Oh, how are ya?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
¿Cómo estás?
Todo bien.
Good. Bruna Zanini, high school student. Bruna, I won't attempt to pronounce the name of your high school. Please go ahead.
Colégio Farroupilha.
Colégio
Farroupilha.
Farroupilha. Okay, so let's put that into context. Zanini.
Yes.
Where is Zanini from? That sounds
Zanini
Italian.
is actually an Italian last name. I got it from my dad's family.
Okay, and where in Italy? You know?
I think it's more of the southern part near
Okay.
Genova and Mantova.
Okay, perfect. How many languages do you speak?
Oh, I speak Portuguese, English, Spanish a little bit, German, and then I also did 3 or 2 years of French classes, but that's a bit rusty. I don't speak that well anymore.
Okay, and have you been to all those countries where those native
Yes,
languages are?
I have been lucky enough to go to all those countries, yes.
Okay, well, first of all, I want to say thank you for agreeing to being here, to your parents for
Thank
allowing
you for
you
the
to be here.
opportunity.
And as you notice, these are conversations, very organic. I love when
Yeah.
we have students because you're the future. You're the future of humankind. So we're very excited. And also, I want to take an opportunity to say hello to Emily Dobson. So
Hi, Emily.
we connected. How did you guys meet? Tell me.
Well, she's a counselor mostly here in Porto Alegre, right? And she helped 2 high school students actually from my school. She helped them through the entire application process. And my mom actually knows their mom. So she kind of put us in contact. And as soon as I met her, I think we matched, and she was the perfect person to help me.
Emily is one of the most amazing independent high
She's
school counselors
amazing.
in the world. She's a leader. You've seen it. Probably you haven't seen her behind the scenes, but she belongs to International AC board. She's a
Yeah.
delegate for the board. She's very active. She runs one of the most famous WhatsApp and Facebook groups for
Yeah.
all high school counselors in Latin America and the Caribbean. So Emily, you are amazing, and thank you for the opportunity to be interviewing Bruna and having this conversation. Bruna, I was
Yes.
reading your bio. It is very impressive.
Thank you.
Where does this energy come from?
Well, I don't know. I think I just always like a challenge, and then anything that even resembles something different, I always like to go for it. Some people
Okay.
may think I'm crazy or way too much of an overachiever, but I just like going for the different things, and I like trying out new things, and yeah, that's just it.
Have you noticed that since kindergarten all the way
Oh,
up
I
to
think
your
I was a little bit of a weird child. I maybe was one of the overachievers since I was very little.
but let's talk on that. Let's get into the psychology. What do you mean weird? Explain that to
Um,
me.
I don't know. I've always been very academic in a sense. I always like to study a lot. I've always been a bookworm. Like since quarantine, I think I've read, I don't know, maybe 16 books already.
Wow.
So I've always liked to study. I've always liked to learn. I've always had a
Okay.
passion for that. And I think over the times I actually developed a passion to teach back. So I think that's where Resumindo actually came from.
Okay. I have a question for you. I was also very intellectually oriented, but guess what? It became on my ninth grade. I was not a good student. sixth, seventh, and eighth, that was okay. I was like a
Yeah.
volcano ready to explode. And on ninth grade, I became a very good student. But I became a good student, mixing that with my classmates. I was the class president. You've been involved in a lot of leadership programs, so I believe that you're super good academically, but you are also very outgoing, and that's something that I
Yeah,
can see.
I also like this part of being more outgoing, and I've always loved to interact with my classmates, and I think um, some part of my leadership also comes from that. I've always loved being class representative. That's also something that I've enjoyed doing. I've been my class's representative. I think I was my class representative for about 6 years, if I was going to
Okay.
say like a time frame. And I think it's just really something that I actually enjoy doing. I like connecting with other people. I like getting different views, different perspective. And I think I'm not only academic, I also have this more outgoing side too.
So thank you. You have viewers from all over Latin America, from Brazil, from Colombia, from Mexico, from Argentina. I mean, people are just logging in.
I
I'm very curious about, I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Why students, and I know this is about Resumido, your
Hmm.
project, but we will get there. Why students lack interest on reading books? What do you think is behind that?
Yeah, I think our generation as a whole, we are very lucky in like a myriad of aspects. We have a bunch of technologies. We have many things that people before didn't have. But I think what I see in most of my friends and in most of my classmates is that sometimes because we have so much information, it becomes kind of boring almost to like sit down and read an entire book, or when we're going to study, if we have a test in which we have to study or read 35 pages of our history book, it sometimes is like too demanding of us to like sit down and get that time only for that. And I think that's pretty much what happens to us. We have the energy to do a lot of things, but we don't really know how to take that energy and use it to something productive.
Yes, and question, because you're talking about generation, I love feeling the paper. I love the book. Right now, I have like 4 or 5 books on my night table, and I
Mhm.
pick one, and then I go to the next one, but then I take this one, and then I
Yeah,
jump into onto Twitter and read on Twitter. What do you like? You like paper or you like electronic versions?
I am exactly like you. I cannot read books on the internet. I have tried to. My mom has tried to lend me her Kindle, but I can't. I'm totally someone who needs like the paper. I need a physical book in my hand. Especially like hardcovers. Hardcovers for
Hmm.
me are like one of the best things in the world. So I definitely see eye to eye with you in that sense. I cannot use online books. It just doesn't work for me.
And do you think, how long do you think is going to be until paper books disappear? Because I know
Oh,
a lot
I
of people
like
are,
to think about that because that's way too sad for me to think about. But I think the way we're going, the direction we seem to be heading at, I don't think it will take too much time for real books to disappear. But
Mhm.
I really think that would be very sad because I relish my hardcover books like nothing in the world.
So, and you notice because I love marketing. That was one of my bachelor's was in marketing. It was my second bachelor, and I love doing research. And I'm fascinated by your generation. Let's. I work in admission, so this is it might be an admission question from an admission counselor. Um, where do you get your news from? Is it Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook? Where do you get your news from?
Well, I think it's just a mix of everything. I think we all kind of get a lot of news from social media, but I always try to go and find something more journalistic to back it up in a way. Like I always like to go to actual newspaper sites, like websites that are a little bit more specialist in that area because I think
Yes.
unfortunately social media can sometimes spread very radical views or like very sometimes fake news even. So I think our generation is always trying to learn new ways to verify the information that we get online.
And there we had the senior vice president for NBC was here this week, and I know all these channels or networks are putting content into Instagram. So on Instagram, you can follow them. On a Snapchat, you have the channels. Do you
Yeah.
follow those channels on either
I
on
do. I
Instagram?
do
Yeah.
follow some of them. I think it's a very good way to get fast information. Like it's always there at the touch of a hand. But I also do like to get some more in-depth information too.
Okay, so now let's go back to Brazil. I've been to Brazil, I don't know how many times, many
Yeah.
times. I was an admission counselor, so I recruited all over Latin America. I always, usually you go to the same cities, Sao Paulo, Rio. Last year
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to go to Salvador Bahia for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
It was beautiful. So let's put people into context.
Hmm.
You're south of Curitiba, okay?
Yes.
And
I'm from Porto Alegre, so it's the very south tip of Brazil. It's almost, it's very near Argentina, very near Uruguay. If you take a car from my city in like 8 hours, you'll be in Uruguay. So it's
okay.
very close. And yeah, basically that's it.
Have you been to Uruguay?
Yes, yes, I love
Yes.
going there.
And and how's your Spanish when you go there? You understand pretty much everything.
Well, I learned most of my Spanish in Uruguay actually because we
Okay.
like to go there so much that I think I kind of developed my own way of speaking and learning Spanish there because I haven't ever taken any class of Spanish, so or any lesson.
And
I
what?
learned just by talking.
Okay. Y te hago una pregunta. Vamos a
Sí.
hablar. ¿Cuál es tu comida favorita en Brasil?
O en Brasil, brigadeiro.
Brigadeiro.
Tiene que ser,
Okay.
tiene que ser.
Mo- I love Brazilian food. Now let's deep into your high school. You're a rising senior, as we call it
Yes,
here.
I
You'll be a senior. Your resume is fantastic. You have
am.
that
Thank you.
the pre-college work at Harvard, a lot of leadership roles. Tell me a little bit about the leadership role on academic calendar that you work on that academic calendar at your school.
Well, as my class representative, one of our main roles and one of our main goals is to always do kind of like to do the communication between our classmates and people from the coordination, people from the actual board of our school. So one thing that we were very involved in was actually helping them organize our academic calendar because we as students know more than anyone how overwhelming it can be to have like 3 weeks of just finals and tests and papers due like every single day. So something that we try to do with our coordination, they were always very helpful and they were always amazing in taking into consideration our ideas. We would help them organize the days for which our tests would be, when we would have to hand in papers which were worth quite a lot of our grade. So it was really something good to kind of like balance it out so we wouldn't have a very strenuous week and then 2 weeks of virtually nothing. So we would kind of organize our academic calendar and try to balance it out and strike a good balance for us.
I want to show you this. I have a lot of colors. I always carry a lot of colors.
Yeah.
When you organize an academic calendar, it's a force. How many people are on that task force?
Oh, we usually have like 2 class representatives from each class, and then we always
Okay.
have like the coordinator. We always have like a psychologist. It usually is a teamwork. It takes a village.
Yes.
I'd say there's at least 10 of us to do just the academic calendar for that trimester.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is quite a handful.
And do you guys, I have a blackboard here. Do you guys use a
Yeah.
blackboard, paper? How do you do it? I want people to understand how you create an academic calendar.
Yeah, no, we usually would just do it on paper because
Okay.
then we could put in more suggestions and we could erase it and just go changing it by what seemed best for us. So we would just usually do it on paper, basically.
Okay. Now let's. A lot of students they say, Juanca, volunteer work. What is that? How do I do that? I want you to tell students. I mean, what is your regular schedule? Is it 8 to 2, 7:45 to 3? What is your regular schedule?
Well, my school has classes from 7:30 to 12 to noon.
Okay.
But then as years go by, our schedules kind of change a bit. So for example, last year I had classes from 7:30 to 12:50. And then I also had classes 2 times a week. I had double shifts. So I had class from 2 to 5:40.
Okay.
But since I'm a senior this year, our schedule is a little bit lighter because most people like to do cursinhos in the afternoon, which are kind of like complementary subjects and classes for vestibulares and ENEM, which are kind of our SATs here in Brazil. So right now our schedule is from 7:30 to 12:50, and then in the afternoon I usually just have cursinhos and things like that.
Okay, so you do your work. You are an extraordinary student. You
Mhm.
volunteer. So I'm sure that I know maybe your lunches. Oh, I have a meeting with the school headmaster. I had a meeting with this, and so your free time becomes your volunteer time. And then after school hours, you have 1 or 2 more hours to volunteer. Then you go home. You eat something, I'm sure, because you go home and you're
Yes.
starving. And then do you exercise?
I do try to exercise, but I won't say I'm the most regular person in doing so. But I do
Okay.
try and do it because I know it's necessary for us to stay healthy.
And to stay healthy, mindfulness, you do meditation, yoga,
Yes.
you do all that stuff?
I don't do yoga. My biggest outlet actually is, funnily enough, is baking. That is something that it, like
Okay.
for me, takes away every ounce of stress from me. So every time I have like a bad finals week or I'm like way too overwhelmed or I have a little bit of free time, I always go to the kitchen and just thrive there.
No, that's good. And I won't attempt to say the word in Portuguese, but I love the cheese bread, pão
Pão de
queijo.
queijo.
Oof, that's, can you make those?
No, I haven't actually attempted to make those, but it's actually pretty easy.
Okay, so when you do those, I don't know if you're gonna have to send some here to the US. We love them. There is a Brazilian supermarket right here next door.
Yeah.
So anyway, so going back through your high school years, so academic calendar, you're super busy. Then you eat, you do your bakery, and then you study. What? How late you study until?
Um, that's the thing about me. I can't really stay up too late because then my brain
Okay,
just doesn't function anymore. So I usually would study up until like 8, 9, I'd say,
okay,
and then I'll just call it quits and then just do something more lazy.
okay. So you get into social media?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
I do.
all right. Gigi says here, Gigi Paglioli says, I love pie
Oh,
queijo. So, Lily, un saludo para ti. Now, I was reading Shark Tank here, and it's called Grow Coop.
Grow Cube. Yeah.
Grow Cube. What is that?
Yes. So this is actually an initiative from my school. I was actually one of the first people in their class. In 2017, I think they decided to assemble together a team of college professors, so professors from universities in Porto Alegre, from business, from marketing, from law, and they decided to create this GrowQ program.
Okay.
We would meet every hour, every week for about 2 hours. And then our goal was basically to get in groups and create an idea for a startup. We would develop like everything, like the cost, the budgets, when we would start to make a profit. Like it was basically a Shark Tank model. That's how they approached it.
Uh-huh.
And at the end of each class, like at the end of the trimester, we would present our startups to a board of members from different enterprises and people who would give us a little bit of a hint of if we were going in the right way, if we should change anything. And it was really just a very good experience to get a better grasp at entrepreneurship, and just it was very interesting. It's not something that you learn inside the classroom, so it was nice that I got the opportunity to do
And
that.
what do you guys develop?
It's funny because I was in a group with 4 other girls, and we ended up developing an idea for an app,
Okay.
which would have summaries, questions, and videos made from students to students. And then we passed. I think we did two semesters. We talked to two different boards, and but it didn't end up going anywhere. I think we were just a little bit tired of it, and then it unfortunately didn't go anywhere. But the idea always stayed up inside my brain, and I always kept it in there because I was always doing the summaries ever since ninth grade. And then I kept it in my brain that I would one day do something similar to that. And then Resumindo came.
Wow. Now, question. The language of instruction at your high school is both Portuguese and English, or is mainly Portuguese?
No, we only have our entire curriculum is only national, so we only
Okay.
have classes in Portuguese, but we
Okay.
do have 2 hours a week of English. with very good teachers. So, but our entire, like, we have physics, biology, history, everything about that part is in Portuguese.
Okay, that's fantastic. I mean, your English is impeccable. My high school,
Thank you.
my English courses were not that good, and my English was really bad. So I had to come to the US for a year of English training, but it is impeccable.
Yeah, I
Congratulations to
think
you.
a big part of my English also comes from my reading. Like, as
Okay,
soon as I could get a little bit of an idea of how to speak English, I just started reading books in English, and I think that's where I really learned how to speak English.
that is awesome. Now, very impressive. I read when I was working in missions Olympics, mathematics Olympics, and you
Yes.
have competed the regional level and national level. How is it? And you won a gold medal.
It's very nice. The ones in which I usually take part in are ones in which you assemble a group and then you have questions and you have to solve them. So like, you have to present the whole development of the question, and they're usually very challenging questions. They're not the type of questions you would find on an ACT or in Brazil. So it's very nice. And math is always something that I think people have kind of a prejudice against math. They don't seem to like it very much. But I always liked math, and I had very good math teachers in school. So I think
Hmm.
I really enjoyed doing that, and having also a very nice group of friends to do those Olympics with was just super.
When you go to a national competition, and this is for the students, for all of us, when you go to nationals, I'm sure you have qualified regionals and then you go to nationals. How many people go to a national mathematical Olympics in Brazil?
Oh,
Students.
I have no idea how many, but I know this test works a little bit different. Like,
Okay.
we do one test and then you get a medal for your regional classification, and then you get a medal for your national classification. And we were just lucky enough to have 2 years of gold medals for both of them. But it's a very nice Olympics because it's a little bit different from those traditional Olympics in which you're all by yourself and it's just you and your brain and you have to think alone. So it's a very nice Olympics because you have kind of a teamwork in it too. So it's a little bit different. It's nice.
That's good. And I was just reading, I don't know if you read the other day, last week, a student, a PhD student, just solved a very complex mathematical
Oh,
equation. It took scientists 52 years, and the
wow.
student just solved that. So just Google that. And I
Yeah,
wish I
that's
can
nice.
remember her name, but that's something that came to my mind. Now, you moved me from leadership, from volunteer work, calendars, business, social entrepreneurship. What do you want to study?
I actually want to go to law.
Okay.
That's my both my parents graduated from law school, so maybe there's something in there too. But I always really like ever since ninth grade, I think I had it in my mind that I wanted to study law, just because I really like communication. I like debating is something that I always really find interesting too. So the goal for right now is to study law.
Okay. And so you want to study first, you want to leave Brazil and you want to study abroad?
Yeah, I'm kind of set. I don't really know. This
Okay.
is like I'd say my biggest doubt right now is whether to stay in Brazil or go abroad. But since I'm a senior this year, I'm kind of preparing for both. So I'm doing the
Yes.
signos and I'm preparing to take Brazil exams, which are vestibulares and Enem. But I'm also doing the entire application process to go to the US. And then at the end of the year, when I have my options, I'll look at them and see what appeals to me the most, and that's what I'll do.
Bruna, we're gonna make sure we follow you up. I know where Emily is. I know where you is, and I want to keep in touch with you because I really want to know you have an extraordinary future ahead of you.
Thank you.
Now, are you ready for what
Yeah.
we're here for to talk about resumido? How do you translate this word in English?
I think that the literal translation of it would be just summarizing.
Summarizing, resumen en
Yeah.
español. Okay, so resumido, and what is it all about?
Well, basically, Resumindo is a platform, is a Google Classroom in which I have put all the summaries that I do in school about various subjects. And I'm also keep adding the ones that I do. Like, as soon as I finish them, for example, this weekend I'm finishing two others, and as soon as they're done, I'm gonna put them in there. They're all filed in PDFs, so you can
Okay,
download them. They're downloadable, they're printable, And then they're also separated by subjects. So you have history, Portuguese, chemistry. And yeah, those summaries, I think a lot of people do study by summaries. I think it's a very common
Yes.
method of study. But I always was one like to think that summaries, like it has to be a very good summary in order for you to really understand it. Like it has to be colorful. That's like color coding to me is like inherent to a summary. Like you can't have a summary without color coding. Drawings, like I always try to draw things, especially in biology and chemistry, when you have like processes that you need to understand. Like I try to pull arrows and I try to do as many things as possible, like whatever I can to make it easier to learn. And like, because when you have like an image in your mind, it's kind of easier to understand it and like actually memorize it than just writing something down. I think Emily wants me to show her a summary.
Yes. Emily, I want to show you something. This is how I summarize. She was talking about color coding. Of course, it's all over the place,
I think
but
I do have a summary with me. Let me get one.
go ahead, no problem. So we are Bruna Zanini from Porto Alegre, Brazil, and she's gonna show us how her project Resumindo works. She shares the summaries through Google. What's the platform you use?
Google Classroom.
Google Classroom, and right now 132 students have
I
been.
have actually 145 as of now.
Good. Okay, so show us how it works. Oh
Here
my
is
gosh.
one.
Wow, that's
This is
beautiful.
actually one from biology. So it's
Uh-huh.
about the nuclei of a cell. And as you can see here, like I draw it and then I usually just pull arrows out of it. And then I pull it out and I say, okay, what is this? Then I explain what it is. So it's just always made for you to like learn it in the fastest and most, like in a lighter way. Because I think sometimes when you get a book, and it also goes back to our generation not wanting to read huge books at most times. When you have like 45 pages to read for a test and you're going to study the day before, you're not going to read those 45 pages. And even if
No.
you do, chances are that you're not going to understand like practically everything that's in there. So these summaries were always something that I did. I started doing it in ninth grade, like the way they are now. And my classmates always asked me to send them to them. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna like took a picture, send it on WhatsApp. And then my classmates started telling me like how much it helped them.
Yes.
And because it's like it's different when you have like a student's perspective for that subject. Because I think our teachers are amazing, our teachers are very committed. But when you have a student who has kind of gone through the same things as you, it's kind of a bit easier to know what they need and to know what will work and what will probably not be as effective.
Yes.
So these summaries were always a part of my life since ninth grade, which is why our Grow Q project also had something in relation to that. And I always had the plan in my mind that I was going to do something with them. So the main idea was that after I graduated from high school this year, I would put them out on some platform. I didn't really know which one, but I would put them out there for people and students who needed them. But I always had this idea of like, okay, after I graduate. But then what happened was COVID came in March.
Yes.
And I started looking at all the problems and the challenges that public schools were going through. Because here in Brazil, our public school system is very complex. It's unfortunately has a lot of problems. Our teachers are constantly underpaid. We have like strikes all the time. Students don't have the same opportunities and the same chances that we do. I'm very lucky to study at a very good private school, but I know that most students from public schools just aren't that lucky. So I just came up with the idea of just getting all my summaries, digitalizing them, putting them in a classroom, and sharing them with public schools. That was my main goal in the beginning, because I knew people from public schools were the ones who were the most affected by COVID, because at the beginning of the year, I was actually able to get the contact of some public school teachers, and I was able to talk to them. And they told me that I think up until the middle of April or like the beginning of May, they weren't allowed to send like basically anything to their students.
Wow.
Because our government hadn't like made something like very regular for like they hadn't created a pattern or a policy for all the schools to send out materials. So there were like basically students who were doing nothing, like their teachers weren't even able to help them even if they wanted to. And at the end of the day, here in Brazil, we're all going to take the same test in the end of the year. We're all going to have to go through an Enem. We're all going to have to go through vestibulares. And it's already kind of unfair, the different opportunities that we get and that other people get. But I think this kind of just made it even worse, and it just shone an even brighter light on the problem of that we have for public school students. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. Like, it's probably going to be just a very small action. Like, if 3 students get in there, I'm as lucky as I'll ever be, just to have helped those 3 students. But then the project just grew and kept on growing, and I have over 145 people. Wow. I have students from Maranhão, which is very up in the north. I have people from the country land, from Brasilia. Like, I have no idea how that even got to them, but it's just so amazing that I could be a little part of those students' project to go into a name.
Bruna, I have so many questions. The first thing, there is an incredible psychologist. He taught at Harvard. He taught one of my mentors, Dr. Marsha Glines. Dr. Glines always had colors, always. I always carry colors since kindergarten. I love color coding and everything. So you're using psychology. You are using one thing that is called all styles are welcome. And we humans, we love graphics. We love coding. And what you're doing is you're getting to the psychology of the students on easy. Now, if I am a student, let's say that I am in Salvador Bahia, and I get a hold of Bruna's work. If I study from your summaries, do you think my chances of doing better are much greater?
Well, I would like to think so, mainly because these summaries are like my main sort of sub-study. Like, ever since I started doing them, when I learn something, I do these summaries right away. So the content is like fresh in my mind. And I do these summaries, and when I have to study for tests, like, that's how I do it. That's how I study. And because my friends always do that too, and they always give me feedback on like, this is very helpful, like, this is amazing, this makes me memorize things faster, I really do believe that students can make the best of it. Like, of course, you have to put in like your own motivation in it. You can't really just take it and read it once and be like, okay, fine, I learned everything. Like, that's not how it works. But if you get this summary, you look at it, you read it, you try to understand, you try to understand the logic of it, I really think it could be helpful for students. Yeah.
I think 145 students is gonna be nothing compared to what you're gonna have in the next month if you keep doing this trend. How do you advertise it? I know you have contact public schools and you're getting support from public schools, but what other medias do you use? Now we're gonna make sure that we send it on our Instagram, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook. But how people? What's your strategy? You did this Shark Tank, and you have a business strategy for this one, or it's called social entrepreneurship, which is not a business.
Yeah. Well, basically, I started off talking to a few public teachers. So they started spreading the code and like telling their students about it, and a bunch of students came in from that kind of advertising. Then what I actually ended up seeing was that some people, like students that get in the classroom, actually do a bunch of advertising about the classrooms themselves.
Okay.
Because I can see, when I ask people to join the classroom, when people ask me to join the classroom, actually, I ask them to file a quick Google Forms in which they have to like state their name, the Gmail, with which they want to be added to the classroom. And I always ask them the school they go to. So I actually see that, for example, there's a school, I think, in the country land of São Paulo. I have like 12 students in that school. Wow. Which probably was. In São Paulo, first of all, in São Paulo, I don't know how it got there. But probably what happened was someone in São Paulo found out about this and just started talking about it to their friends. And it's super nice to see. I've actually gotten some feedback from students who didn't know me. I didn't know them. Some students from Porto Alegre, some students from Novo Hamburgo, which is a neighboring city, but also students from like very far away places in Brazil. And it's very nice that, because I think the main goal of this and the main lesson that we can take away from this is just that students should help other students. And I think this is
Yes.
the main lesson behind it. So when you find out about something that could really be helpful to for you and for other students alike, I think we just like to spread that out. We just like to pass it on and just help others.
No, that's good. And I just want to take a brief second to say hola to Larissa, Bella, Kelly, Macri. Thank you for chatting. Good job, Bruna. Annalise, Anna, right? She's a high school counselor here in West Palm Beach. Anna, un saludo. Hello, my friend, Mike Mora. Bella again. I mean, you have a lot of people that are jumping in and out. Emily Dobson, great news, travels fast. And I do agree. I do agree that you're doing a
Yeah.
fantastic job. And I was just thinking, because I'm always with ideas, maybe you got to reach out to a publishing company and you got to say, listen, here it is. We got to help
Maybe.
students. Maybe you
Maybe
say,
that's
hey,
the next step to follow. I
something.
was also lucky enough to do some articles. I was on the radio, a radio here
Yes.
in Porto Alegre, and I also me for a couple of journals and newspapers here. So I think some of the advertising and some of the marketing also came from that.
No, and I'm thinking here, and I'm going to put you these little seeds. So we both talk about reading. So how could you increase book reading amongst
Yes.
your age group? And
Yeah.
how do you increase this fantastic idea of Resumindo amongst peers in Brazil? These notes,
Yeah.
they're all in Portuguese. They're not in English, right?
No, unfortunately, they are only in Portuguese. Um, I don't have them in English yet.
Okay. Yet,
Could
but
maybe be a seed to think about.
maybe when you come to the US for undergraduate or graduate, maybe that's an
Who
idea that is
knows?
gonna, but you're always gonna have those ideas, and I'm pretty sure that you will. Now, you're a high school student. This is your I call them your generation is a resilient generation. You have to adjust to Zoom.
Yeah.
When you were talking about sharing your Google Docs through Google Classroom, immediately I was thinking about students with little connectivity. So my head just flew to Zimbabwe. I have a dear friend of mine, Rebecca Ziegler Mano. She has a boarding school, Education Matters, United States Achievers Program, and the USEP program. And what I did, we donated data for students' phones. So the way they communicate in Zimbabwe and a lot of African countries, because Wi-Fi is horrible, is through data.
Yeah.
How can we support the students in rural areas with connectivity so they can utilize like Resumido,
Yeah.
Google Class? How can we help them?
Well, I think that's a very tough question. And that was always something that was also in my mind when I thought about this, because unfortunately, most of the students here in Brazil who are in public school, they don't really have that much access to internet, which is also something that is very detrimental to their study routine. But I knew that doing something online could help at least small percentage of people from public
Mm-hmm.
schools. So I decided to do it anyways. But I really do think about this, like how I can just maximize it and make it even broader for students who don't have access to internet and just need that extra help to study. And maybe I could print them out, like talk to someone who is in publishing, print them out, get them to students who are in need, because I really think this is just all about students helping students.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And maybe you can share up a worldwide campaign. Resumido could be a name and that we can translate it. But I was thinking through a network of Emily and myself and a lot
Yeah.
of high school counselors around the world, we can help you with that incredible innovation idea. Now, it's been tough for you. You've been in your house for probably over 100 days now. You're
Yes.
doing Zoom classes. What's the future of education? Where do you see what was your government in Porto Alegre talking about fall school and spring?
Well, it's very uncertain when we will go back to actual classes. And even when we do, it's not going to be a regular normal, right? It's going to be a new normal. Everyone's going to be wearing masks and everything. So I think the future of education is really just being more proactive. I think this situation is it's terrible. Like there is no words to describe it. But I think a good and like a positive consequence of this is that we as students are actually becoming more independent. It has forced us to become more proactive. I see those people who were usually going to class just because they had to go to class and it was like 7:30 a.m. They really did not want to be there. In the winter it's cold. You know that kind of student, because it just happens. And I think all of us have those days. But I think being inside our houses and just being, we are responsible more than ever for our education now. And our students are great. Our students send us our summaries. They send us video lessons. They send us tests. They send us questions, exercises. They do everything they could possibly do for us. But I think a big part of this is lying on our shoulders now. We as students had to step up. We had to step up and we had to take it into consideration that we were now going to have to do more things than ever. And I know the first few days, the first few weeks were very hard. I am lucky enough to have always been very organized with my studies. Like I've always been a control freak in that sense. I always have everything like to the slightest detail. I have everything planned. But I know that most students and some of them really just aren't like that. And I think that the first few days kind of caught up everyone off guard. And it was really a process of just adapting and seeing how we were going to handle the whole situation. But I'm actually proud to see the way that we, like students as a whole, have stepped up for this. And I think the future of education is just that, you know, it's teachers more than ever are important to us. I think we know now that students are just, their value is immeasurable. We can never thank our teachers enough. But I think we understand now that it has to be mutual. We know we as students have to just step up and do our part as well.
Let's talk about the human component. We are all missing our family, our relatives. It feels really weird. Are you seeing like friends, or maybe you pick one family or two families that you are allowed to see because you guys are, you can do it? Are you doing that right now, or you can't?
Actually, no. I saw my best friend for her 18th birthday, which was very sad. But we were all masked, wearing masks. It's not the same. But I did see my best friend on her 18th birthday, and that was already pretty much amazing. But I haven't had much contact with my friends, unfortunately, and with my family. I think it's just a matter of safety right now. You know, we have to understand that this is bigger than us. And unfortunately, for the safety of everyone, it's best that we just stay home. And eventually this will pass. And eventually we're going to have all those parties and all those gatherings that we love so much. But I think right now it's just a moment of realizing that we also have a responsibility to stay home.
So now school is over right now?
No, school is not over.
Okay.
We have our finals actually start next week. So we have 2 very stressful weeks ahead of us.
So I am between, we are between your finals. I'm taking time from your finals.
No. Our finals only start next week. So this is actually a very good use of my time. But then we have 2 very stressful weeks of tests. But then on the 18th of July, I think, we have 2 weeks of vacation. And then we go back on the first week of August. Still unsure of whether we'll go back virtually or if we're going to go back in real life. But we're going to have those 2 weeks just to settle down, relax, and just recharge for the rest of the year.
Good. Bruna, I'm conscious about time. Also, Instagram Live give us only 59 minutes. We use an amount. I can be here for a long time talking to you. You're fascinating. I'm so proud of you. And if my colleagues, universities are watching from all over the world, they are like, wow, she's incredible. Bruna, you're amazing. So keep doing what your soul and your heart is telling. You're doing an incredible job. We need more leaders like you, and that's what the world needs. We need people that will empower our future generation. Use social entrepreneurship skills are incredible. This week we had one. This week we have Juan Felipe Penagos from Colombia. He has helped 40,000 Colombians to go to university for free.
That's amazing.
So that's the power of social entrepreneurship. Right now,
Yes.
he's finishing his PhD. He's not even 30. And I will see
Wow.
you empowering the future generation, not only in Brazil, but around
I
the
hope
world.
so.
Final thoughts before we say ciao.
Well, I think I'd just like to thank you for the opportunity. This was an amazing conversation, and I'm just thrilled to know that this project is being good for some people. I'm so happy to know that it's helping other students in need, people who just need a little extra help right now, and I'm so happy to be able to do that for them.
No, thank you. And when I was in college, I will ask always someone, I say, can I photocopy your notes? Because your notes, they look amazing. And the person will say, of course, absolutely.
See,
So,
but that's what I like about students as a whole. I really like the sort of cooperation that we have. I like collaborating with my classmates. I like sending summaries. I like asking for help. I like giving help. I think that's what the future of education is all about. We have to learn to be there for each other, not only as friends, not only for social times, but also for stressful times, for studying. I think we just need to collaborate more.
no, absolutely. And you have a lot of fans here. I see Antonia, Bella, Luisa, a lot of Emily, and you're in very good hands. Emily is extraordinary. I know you guys will do well. I will keep following your stories, and I will keep asking Emily if you have ideas. Mi casa es tu casa.
Yes,
okay?
I love it.
So be
Thank
good,
so
stay
much.
safe, and
You too.
come back soon. I want to hear more news, okay?
Oh, I will definitely be here. Thank you so much.
And for those of you watching, Juan Catamayo, JCT for Education with Bruna Zanini from Porto Alegre, high school student, rising senior. Remember, this video will be housed on IGTV and YouTube, JCT for Education for you. Bruna, adios. Molto obrigado.
Adiós, gracias.
Ciao, gracias.